Welcome everybody to day 17 of Video-a-Day Debruary. I'm pretty excited at how fast this is going. It's like, oh, you got to remember when I started doing this series, I was 5 years younger. So, it's taking its toll on me these days. But today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is breaking rules. As a regular, like kind of renegade type person, I look at rules as something that are for other people. They certainly cannot apply to me because I don't know. I mean, I'll adhere to certain things, certain policies about society and things like that. I mean, I'm not trying to go to prison, but as far as anything that I think is going to limit my options and choices, there's no rule. No, there's just no rule. And Marilyn is here to talk about that. So let me tell you about our guest we have today. Her name is Marilyn Shannon. She's an experienced facilitator. She's an author. She's a court consultant, a mediator, business coach, speaker, journalist, online TV and radio host, and the founder of Women's Power Networking. Her involvement in many coaching and mediation programs led to what she's calling Dialogue. It's a private practice where she specializes in working with children, teens, families, couples, individuals, and businesses. So she's going to kind of go over some of the things that you as women might be thinking are rules that are in place that you have to adhere to for some reason, and things that are holding you back and keeping you from winning at life. So let me get with Marilyn on here. Hey, welcome to Debbie, Marilyn.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm just so excited. So let's talk about these. What do you think are some of the rules, I don't know, maybe two or three, that women generally adhere to and don't even really question, don't really think about?
Well, I think a lot of them involve being in business,
Mm,
how women are supposed to act or how they're not supposed to act or how they get to where they're going. I think it's very important to acknowledge those, it's like a brick or cement that builds a building. The rules we break build us. They build us into being who we authentically were meant to be. Uh, I think I have a little phrase I like to use. Whose rule are you breaking anyway? It's not mine.
there you go.
These rules that we look at sometimes that don't fit us are somebody else's rules, and then we take them on as our own, and they're not. They're not.
One thing that's really driving me crazy is there's this big movement. I don't know if it's offline. I just heard of it online, called the femininity movement. And to me, it's trying to put women back in the 1950s as far as how they live and dress and the things they say and how they look. And a lot of young women are buying into that. And to me, I mean, you can certainly look, quote, girly, but you don't have to follow a script, and that's what they're, mandating. Have you seen that kind of thing going on?
No, and I don't subscribe to things like that. I would say that if I want to be feminine, if I am feminine, it's my choice as opposed to a rule I'm following. So there are plenty of women who can be just phenomenally gorgeous at work and wear wonderful clothes or whatever, but I think it's who you are that makes it right or makes it somebody else's rule. I mean,
Gotcha.
with the way we're living today and the way we're working, I don't wear the clothes that I used to wear. I mean, I could go anywhere in more casual clothes, and I mean, we're on videos a lot, so it almost doesn't matter. My most important thing is my lips. I mean, I
Oh,
have to wear very bright, good lipstick because that to me says a lot and it's my thing. Now somebody else would look at it and go, that's too bright for me. That would be their rule, sort of, a self-imposed rule. They wouldn't wear red lips. I'm not telling you to wear it, but I like it. I don't have to wear very much of anything else. As long as I have my lips, I am good to go.
work it, girl. I had this reminds you, I had a friend, she was a little older, I was in college, and I used to babysit her kids. And One day she was looking for her lipstick and going crazy, and she says, "Girl, I can't even drive my car without my lipstick."
Yeah, the car probably wouldn't go.
What you just said reminded me of her all of a sudden. I haven't thought about that in 20 years. It's
Yeah.
so funny.
I think it also comes also to how we use food, how we buy
Food.
food, how we eat food, how we serve food. As far as women are concerned, my mother cooked every night. And I have a thing here where it's who gets to the kitchen first, my husband or me. Who's home first or who's available first? If he's available first, in the kitchen. If I'm available first, in the kitchen. I mean, because our
That makes
lifestyle,
more sense.
yeah. I mean, it's just it works, and it works for both of us. I mean, we want to eat, and we don't have to. And if we want to bring in, we bring in. If we want food delivered, we have food delivered. I mean, we're living in a different world. I like a lot of it.
Tell me this, when we look at some of the things, the labels that women get with placed on them. Like for men, it's like, oh, he's so strong and he's really assertive and aggressive. But if a woman behaves in that same way, she's called like the awful B word, or a broom riding witch, a bee buster. I mean, all kinds of really negative connotations when all she's doing is standing her ground and making her opinion known and setting boundaries. What is that all about? And so for women who are, they're affected by that, they don't want to be called those names. It bothers them.
Believe me,
What
I'm
tips
not
do you
called.
have?
I'm not called any of those things. Are you?
Okay, I have been.
Not lately.
Yeah, yeah, and worse. But it's not like it stops me. It doesn't bother me, but it does happen.
I'm not called that lately, and maybe it's because I don't hear it.
Oh,
I don't listen for those things. And I uh I don't again, I don't feel that way. And I don't surround myself with generally with people who do that. Now they might do that behind my back, and I don't know it, but I don't I don't see it, I don't hear it, and I if I did hear it and if somebody did that to me, I don't think I would react in a negative way because that would only mean that I would think it was true,
mm.
and I
Yeah, it
don't.
happens a lot in online world, where I spend a lot of my time, and I think a lot of these people feel emboldened by the fact that it's kind of an anonymous format, so they feel free to call you all kinds of things, um, and that's where I see it. So it's not like I'm actually hearing it; I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in written form.
Well, and I would think, and on some level, they're saying that about themselves, in more than they're saying it about you.
Agreed. Let me put, ladies, if you have some questions that you would like to ask Marilyn about breaking rules so that you get ahead in life. So breaking rules so that you have placed on yourself as far as your involvement in romance. I mean, whatever kind of way you're limiting yourself, being a quote girl. This is the time to ask your question. If you would like to call in, here is the link, and then you just hit that, and you can ask your question right here on the show. So, Marilyn, let me see. I have some questions here for you that I wrote down because I'll get distracted and start just asking questions that I want to know. So, let's talk about some of the rules at work. Rules at work that are applied to women that are not applied to their male counterparts. What kinds of things do you think women are doing that are limiting themselves in the workplace?
I was having a conversation with someone the other day about how when years ago, and not in the beginning of my career, but somewhere thereafter, you didn't go anywhere without pantyhose or stockings. And today, if a lot of times you don't see anyone wearing pantyhose or stockings. It's almost like, what? What's that? So that's a good thing. I think that still people have an impression of who should be in charge. But yet I have to say that a lot of the men that I've come in contact with want to know what we do. They want to do what we're doing. They want to build those relationships the way we build them. Women know how to build a relationship. We know how to connect. We know how to listen more than we don't. We know how to do 10 things at once. A lot of men don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Or their mothers, their fathers, whatever, wherever they come from, haven't held them accountable for doing those things, haven't expected that of them. And I think that that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that there is a shift. I think that men have been in a position of power, but I think as we look around now, women are really the ones in power. And even if they don't have the title, the women are the ones that are in power. When a woman speaks up in a room, the room gets quiet because we
Mhm.
are intelligent and we have insight. And part of what I do is I've created a networking thing for women, and I can't tell you how many times, excuse me, men have come and want to do it with us, but our groups are just for women. I mean, I like men. I love men. I would love to have men come, but we were established just for women, and we let them come to some things, but not to some of our other more intimate things. But they want to. They want to know how we do it, and
Hmm.
and I think for a lot of women, it's just natural. Now, obviously, there's things to learn, and for some of us, some relationships are harder to connect with and to. But I think men want what we've got. They want our communities. They want the way we are able to just like get up and do this.
That's interesting. Someone has a comment here. I'm going to show you. She says, I love it when a salesperson walks in and sees me and asks to speak to the boss. I'm the boss, and they just blew the sale. I love it.
I I used to own a furniture store many years ago, and I can remember somebody came in at the end of the day. It was like Wednesday afternoon or something before Thanksgiving, and they wanted to buy something, and they wanted it delivered like right then. And I said, "Sorry, we can't do it." And the gentleman said, "Well, where's the boss? I'm sure he would do it." And I looked at him and I said, "The boss is here," and she said she can't. And I will
Mm.
never forget that. And I didn't say it nicely then because I wasn't as evolved then as I am now. I would say it differently now, or let me put it to you this way. I don't want to have to say that. I
So
would
how would you handle that though? Because that's so
now,
disrespectful.
now, I would be a little bit more thoughtful and apologetic. Not, I wouldn't be so eager to be in my ego to say that I was the boss. I would be a little bit, I don't have to do that now. But there was a time when that meant a lot to me. And it doesn't mean that as much. Don't get me wrong. I've worked hard to be doing certain things. But at the same time, it's not in the, I'm good with a lot of people being at the head of the class. I mean, there's a lot of times where I would much rather help people get to the head of the class and sit in the back. I can sit in the back and the front, but there was a time when I only wanted the front.
Oh, I
So
see.
I would do it, I would handle it differently now. I would be a little more gingerly with somebody's feelings because I know I'm good. I don't have to prove it. When we know we're good, we don't have to prove it. And other people may not be as secure as we are. And I would be more gentle and caring.
I'm such a trickster. I had a situation similar to this. So when I'm telling you this story, this is actually what I did. Because he wanted to, well, I don't, let me speak to the person in charge. And say, okay, you have a seat right here, and I'll be back with with the person. And I went in the office, and then I came right out, and he's like, well, where? I said, you looking at her? And so, because it was a gym, and I was the manager at the time, the only one on staff. And so, when you're the only one on staff, what you say goes. And I told him what he needed to do, and he didn't want to do it. So he wanted to, get someone to overrule me. I'm like, no. So that's what I did. I thought it was funny, but he was not amused. And it wasn't like I was trying to, assert an ego or anything. I mean, he wanted to see a new person, so I gave him one.
And it's interesting because I feel like for myself, I kind of have some kind of obligation, some kind of a duty to if I know something, if it's appropriate and I know something, I want to help somebody else learn too in any moment that's possible. So in those moments, it's a learning moment. It's a gift that I can help somebody get to somewhere where they could be different the next time, where maybe they won't be looking for the male boss. They'll be looking for whoever is in charge. Or you know what I mean? Or not look at me and say, well, where's the boss? I'm sure if he was here, he would deliver it for me. I mean, but so I would want to take the opportunity and make it better.
So you have another question here. Oops, there we go. I find that many men are intimidated by strong, independent women. Breaking the rules of the traditional woman can be a lonely experience. What are your thoughts?
It's true. It's very true. I mean, as I said before, men want to know what we know. And there are a lot of men that are intimidated by strong women. When I divorced my first husband and I would go on dates, and there were a lot of men that were intimidated by what I was doing or how I felt or where I was, where I had been in my life. And I was fortunate enough to marry a man who is gentle and not intimidated. And that's a really good combination. But a
Yeah.
lot of men are intimidated. And but again, if we're really going to be strong, really authentically strong, then there's no reason to rub it in anybody's face. Because strength that's authentic strength can come out in good ways. It doesn't have to come out at all. I mean, you could just be that and be comfortable within yourself to know that you are strong. It's not something we have to push on somebody. It's something that we just be. We just do. We do strength. We be strength. We are strength. So it is true. And that's part of the work we have to do is to help people not be like that.
Here's another question. Like, what are some work rules for women? Work rules. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it's the same rules for anybody. I would say show up on time, be ethical with your word, uh, don't let things fall through your cracks as best you can. Help people along the way. I often say to my clients, if you go with the flow of the river, there will be people along the way to lend a helping hand. But if you go against the flow, you go against how nature really wants to be, you go against love and caring about somebody and being appreciative, it's going to backfire. So, and again, every rule is made to be broken almost. I mean, there aren't that many rules that have to exist for, eternity. Because if we look at history and we look at things that we go through now, there's plenty of things that have been adjusted. I mean, things that you never thought in your wildest imagination
Right.
would happen, and they shift. So, are you going to be the shifter? I personally want to be the shifter. I want to take whatever those rules look like, and I have a hard time identifying them because I don't want to pay attention to them too much. But I want to be that person who shifts the knowledge, shifts the identity of things, shifts how we see things. And
I think
I
some of that at work, workplaces. I'm thinking about the different places I've worked. There's so many different cultures, and some of them, I think it depends on who your superiors are or the structure of the corporation. Some are more open and, to people that are different, different races, different genders, different ethnicities than others. And so, That is hard. What you asked, that's really hard because I can't think of any just one rule that applied across the board.
I mean, there isn't any, and it's messy out here, and it's clean out here. It's all of those things going on at one time. I think business business has a hard time even figuring out its own identity.
Yeah,
So it's, I mean, right? It's a great time now because things can things can move, things can change, things are changing,
we
and
got another comment here. And this is something that we experience a lot. That strong women are labeled masculine, and it's sad that being weak, considered weak and submissive are feminine traits to many.
I don't I don't know. I don't see that. I don't, I mean, maybe I'm living in a little bubble, but in my bubble, it's working. And I don't buy into this. Now, there are women who are masculine, that there are women, and that's fine because we have a huge LGBTQ community. And there are women who are not like overly feminine. And and here's the other thing too. See, people we can't take just a first impression. We've got to help people get past that too. Get because stigmas are killing people. We need That's a problem we have. That's a problem in a lot of things. I like to call myself a stigma squisher because stigmas are what is really hurting us because they're not true.
Right.
They're based on lies. They're based on somebody else's jargon. They're based on, inexperience. They're based in fear. They're not based in truth. So the more we can identify those stigmas within ourselves, I mean, we all have them. I mean, we have to look at them inside of ourselves and work them so that we can get past them. And I'm working on myself, my stigmas, but also on a society level because it's dangerous.
Very much so. And I think, we have a pretty large component of the visitors to this channel are African American or Caribbean from all over the world. And one thing that comes up a lot is, you go into an environment where you're just as educated, just as qualified as anyone else, but because you have brown skin or because you're, have an accent because you're from the Caribbean or, Africa, or whatever, then people automatically think that you're less intelligent or less qualified, or the only reason that you got the job was because of some EEOC, whatever, not realizing everybody else in there that applied has a bachelor's, but you have an MBA, and that's why you got the job. Things like that. And that's, on top of what you're talking about, that women are hit with, we get the double whammy of racism.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, it's a snail's pace of a change. Like I can remember working in television. I was a sales rep in a television station, an NBC station, and there were three women that were part of the sales. We had six people, but there were three of us. Two of the women were black, and there was a Michelle, a Monique, and me, Marilyn, and they used to call us the ums. We I mean, we had a blast.
That's cute.
We would schedule our clients and who we were going to meet based on where we wanted to meet for lunch. We had a great experience together, but I can remember Monique would say her tone of her voice didn't sound black. And now I'm in North Carolina, right? We're in North Carolina.
Oh,
So
wow.
when she first came, she would say, when I first talk to people on the phone to set up an appointment, they think I'm white. But when I show up, I'm black and it's uncomfortable and you can tell,
Yep.
right? So I never realized that. But when she said that, has stayed with me forever. And so it's become part of my um, how I am, right? And that's why what you're doing and how you're doing this, Deborah, is so important because we've got to talk. If we don't talk, if we keep these things under the rug, that's not doing anybody any good. It just fuels those stigmas, and it separates us when we should be allies and working on, the on all of these things. I mean, we have to work on everything. And coming together and discussing these things in an honest way is extremely important, because I can promise you, as I, when this whole thing came up about, Black Lives Matter, and that whole thing with George Floyd happened, I didn't realize how I thought about things. I didn't. I mean, just the mere fact that I'm white, that's given me privilege that I never realized I had,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize it. I didn't, and there's nothing I can do about it.
No. And, a lot of people think because, people of color bring it to their attention that they should feel guilty, or that's not the point. The point is awareness. And saying a situation where we're both in the same situation and you're treated or talked to in a different manner than the person of color, that that privilege that you enjoyed, where you're not followed around the store, you're not questioned, you're not pulled out of your car and tossed to the ground and quote invest frisked and all of that. It's that kind of thing. That's what we're trying to bring awareness to. And I think a lot of people, from seeing the video, the Floyd video, it's like they opened their eyes. They saw something that they never really acknowledged before.
Right. And that acknowledgement was pretty hard. I mean, because, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'm writing a series of books, and my series is called In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of. So I interview people. My first book was men. I interviewed a bunch of men. Then it was twins. My mother and my aunt are 96. They're going to be 97. They're identical twins. They're crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're nuts. And yeah, oh, they are. I mean, my aunt lives in New Jersey. My mother lives here. My daughter my ex-husband took my mother to the hair salon today because I couldn't do it, and he was free. None of us could do it. My husband couldn't do it. He was the only one that could do it. And my daughter picked her up, and I called to see how she was because I had been busy, and she was like, "I don't like it. He didn't put enough streaks in it."
Okay, then.
So she and my aunt were my specimens for my twins book, because twins teach a lot about relationships and sibling rivalry and all that stuff, conflict resolution, because they're really like, they know how to do it.
Yeah.
After that was millennials, and it was people impacted by opioid addiction. The one I'm finishing now is In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Black Fathers. And I have interviewed a lot of Black daddies. And it's interesting because that's a rule that you can look at that as a rule. Like, I am calling and looking for Black men to interview about how they are as Black daddies. Now, that just can be a rule. I mean, people can look at that and go, is she kidding? But I have never gotten that response, because I'm honest. I say, I am writing a book about Black daddies, and I think you need a voice. I want to give you a voice. And because I'm white, maybe makes it better, maybe doesn't make it. It doesn't matter. I'm putting it out there. And I wrote my introduction, which I thought was really pretty good. But I realized I'm missing something. Maybe it's because I'm white, and maybe it's because I'm a woman. Maybe it's because I'm not a daddy. But it could be all those things. Could be that I'm not.
Well, what makes you think that it's missing something?
Because I feel like I needed something else. I needed another dimension. I'm a listener, and when I listen to the structure of the book, I felt like I needed something else. So I started out on social media and asking friends and everyone if you knew any other daddies, any other women that were married to Black daddies, and kids, teenagers, young kids who could give a quote about their fathers. And so I'm gathering that information.
Okay.
And it's interesting what parts of and what I've asked them to do is tell me why this is important. That's one of the main questions, is why is this important? Why is putting out a book And giving a voice to Black daddy is important. And of course, people say different things, which is great because you get different perspectives.
Well, I'd
Uh,
be interested in, when you get a draft ready, to take a look at that because that might be something we want to, bring you in to talk about, once it's closer to being done.
sure.
I
I'd
have
love
another
to.
question here
Okay.
from Amanda. What would you say to a young lady whose marriage is failing due to her husband's intimidation of her success? Have you encountered someone in real life who's had to navigate through that? That's a good question, Amanda.
Yeah, it is. I've certainly coached people that are like that, and I've mediated people like that. Relationships, couples, and I've worked with couples. I worked with couples that are in different stages of couplehood, I would say. Some are in business together and, going through separations and all sorts of things. That is not a good thing. And I would say that uh, who this is a man. I don't know.
Amanda, uh-huh.
Amanda, I would say if this is you or if this is somebody um, well, obviously this man is uh, is jealous and coming from scarcity. I mean, as opposed to a feeling of abundance. Because if you're in a relationship and one person is successful and it's a healthy relationship, then everybody's successful.
Exactly.
You can't. You cannot be in a healthy relationship if everybody's not winning when one person wins. So there's a problem there, and that takes work. So this, if it's you, Amanda, or if it's somebody else, I think a really good sit down conversation is really important to ask really important questions. And people in some cases that are like that get belligerent and can get nasty. So I don't know the whole scenario. If I was talking to you, I would have to chop it down. I'd have to ask you specific questions. What else is going on besides the intimidation? What does the intimidation sound like? I mean, intimidation is intimidation, but what does it sound like? Are we dealing with somebody who's just plain scared of losing you, you know, or are we talking about somebody who's narcissistic? I mean,
Mm.
that's a really important thing. If this person is narcissistic, there's not much you can do, and it's not a good place to be. If this person is just scared of losing you and doesn't feel then there are things that you can do together, to maybe there needs to be more connection. Maybe there needs to be more connection between you, Amanda, and this person. But I would need more information. But if it's narcissism, there's nothing you can do but go.
Yeah. It's what DCPC was saying. That's why I put her comment up. She was kind of co-signing on that, saying that her ex was a narcissist, and it was one of the reasons they divorced. He just could not get over it, and he felt like he had to put her down. He had to drag her down to the level that he perceived himself to be, versus just letting her shine.
Absolutely. And you can't stay. You can't
Boy,
stay.
yeah, that's the stuff that'll destroy your self-esteem if you keep trying to dull your light to try to make his light shine brighter when he's not doing anything, to raise himself up.
It will kill your self-esteem and it will kill you.
My goodness. That's one of the things that, that we find a lot. One of the messages I know that I heard growing up, I don't know if young girls are still getting it because I'm considerably older than many of them, but is that, a guy is like even on a date, to let him talk and you should be interested in what he's interested in and talk to him about his work and but nowhere in all these dialogues was there any kind of mention of your own achievements and accomplishments and why do you have to hide those so that he'll feel better about who and what he is if he's not on your level.
Nope.
It always bothered me that those messages, as a teenager hearing that, and I'm like, I'm not doing that crap. If I'm great, I'm gonna tell you about it. And if you don't like it, that's your problem. That has nothing to do with me.
Yep. I don't stay friends with people who if I'm sitting with them at lunch, even a girlfriend, a friend, a new friend, I don't stay long with people who um, monopolize a conversation and don't ask me about myself.
Okay, here's another one from Amanda. Said she's giving you from prompts there. Marilyn said you're hitting the
Yeah.
nail on the head. A sit down conversation turns into being blamed for the other person's failures and unhappiness.
I would also say, Amanda, are you at all scared about being with this person? Is there any kind of abuse, physical abuse? I mean, what you're going through is mental abuse. Abuse to me, abuse is abuse. Just like lying, I don't care a white lie or a half of a lie. A lie is a lie. Abuse
Yeah,
is abuse. And this and that's a real problem. So if somebody is willing to get help, that's one thing. And I've seen people get help. I've worked with people who have been abusive. But if a person doesn't want to get help, if they're not ready, then I would say, honey, sweetheart, it's not going to work. And
yeah, that emotional abuse, man, that is the worst.
it is because it's not in a wheelchair. It's not something you see. It's not something people see. It's pervasive and it can hide and come out in all fours. And here's the other thing, if there's children around, that would make me leave even quicker because I would not want my daughter or my son to be witness of that. Not
Yeah,
even
that's
close.
rough.
And Amanda, um, like yourself a lot, Amanda. Nobody deserves to be abused. Like yourself a lot. Appreciate yourself and go.
Yeah, that's that's not working for me. But Marilyn, I want to give you a chance to, kind of share what kind of things women should be looking for. How do you know when it's time to break a rule? I guess that's my question. When is it some rules are put in place really for your own protection or, you know, for the protection of the company? But something at some point, in order to stand out from the crowd, in order to move ahead of the pack, you have to be able to break free from the pack, and that might mean you have to break a rule or two. So, any suggestions there?
Nope, just do it.
Just do it like Nike.
Just do it. I mean, you can do it slowly. You can do a little bit at a time. You can manifest, you can imagine, you can sit down and see yourself doing it, but you can talk to people. I mean, one of the most important things to do is make sure you're surrounded by like-minded people, like-hearted people. It's very important to be around people that you can trust, that are in a good place or a fairly good place, but care about you, have your best interests at heart, and that you have their best interests at heart. So you can talk to people and be able to hear yourself process things. It's very important. Sometimes you can't play tennis alone. So it's very important to have people you can play with so that you can explore options. Sometimes just hearing yourself say something can make all the difference in the world. But listen to yourself. People have the answers. I have questions. I don't have your answers, but I have questions. So I can help dig things up. There are lots of people out here who have good questions. Ask the question and listen to the answers. And also listen to how you're feeling because your feelings, the way your body responds to situations is not a lie.
True.
You can't control it. There's a lot of things we can try to control. You cannot control puking, feeling sick to your stomach, wanting to have a drink. You can't control that stuff. That is happening. Find out, try to get an idea of where it's starting. Love yourself so yourself will talk to you. Yourself isn't going to talk to you if you're mean to you.
So, Marilyn, tell everybody where they can find you online.
So you can find me at marilynshannon.com. You can find my books on Amazon. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on TikTok now under Marilyn Listens. Uh, I'm in different. I'm around, and I am talking about these kinds of things and things that I learned when I start taking my own advice or my own words, or something comes up that's downloaded from the universe, because everything we are comes, and the more we appreciate, the more comes. So I am listening to what's coming. I don't create this on my own. I'm not that smart. I'm just listening and connecting the dots, and then I experiment with them, and some things work out and
Let's
some things
rearrange these dots that we connected now. I
don't.
love it.
But I am findable for sure, and I
Okay,
like
thank you,
being found.
Marilyn. Thank you so much for coming and being a part of Debbie and opening up people's eyes to, what they can do differently, to how they can take a different approach and not be afraid to break a rule or two.
Mm, no, got to do it.
Okay.
Somebody will do it. It might as well be you.
Hey, I love it. So thank you very much, and we'll
Thank
speak
you.
later.
Thank you.
Oops, I accidentally hit the button before she finished talking. But anyway, that was Marilyn Shannon. I love what she had to say, and what she's basically saying, ladies, look at what you could do, and then be brave enough to get in there. You don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to do everything the way that everybody expects you to, or the way somebody told you to, or the way that somebody wants you to do it because it's going to spare their feelings. How's it going to make you feel? Just like she said, tune into how you feel. And if it's not working for you, if you're feeling stressed, you're feeling anxiety, a lot of women that are in relationships where these are the kind of things that are going on. And instead of them acknowledging that this person is toxic and stressing them out, they instead go and start taking, antidepressants, or, you need to head to AA or something like that. Tune into yourself. That's what this whole month is about. Repositioning your thinking and your behavior, your actions, mainly towards yourself, so that you become a winner at life. It's key. Like I always tell you, every single day the clock is ticking. You don't have time to waste. You don't have time to circle around and waste, circling down the drain with food. You can't do that. You want your last days to be where you can sit back in your rocking chair and think about all the wonderful things that you accomplished, all the people that you helped, all the love that you gave and received from other people. And I'll tell you what my daddy used to tell us, being the change agent. That's what he expected from me and my brothers, because he says, there's like three kinds of people in this world. And that's what he used to tell us this all the time. It's those people that wonder what's going on, those people that are just watching what's going on, and then there's the people that make it happen. And he always pushed me and my brothers to be in that top category of making stuff happen, being what they now call change agents. Because you got to think about it. If you in the back of the pack, you ain't in the front, you in the back, all you doing is smelling somebody else's butt. I know that might not seem like a fun thing, but you think about a pack. That's how they travel, right? There's the one in the front, and then there's everybody else. Don't be everybody else. Be the one in the front. But have the courage enough to do it, because the one in the front is the one that's going to take all the hits. If you're not brave enough, then that's what you're going to be. Yes, it's alive. You don't know where you are? Come on now. Yes, this is alive. But let me see what we got going on here. Because tomorrow is the 18th. And yeah, that's Steve. So those of you who were, describing yourself as introverts, and you wanted to figure out what you can do to get, you want to ask a girl out. For some of the guys, you want to ask a girl, but you're scared. Some of you ladies are like, oh, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to try it. This show that's coming up tomorrow and this one go hand in hand. So, that's why they're scheduled back to back. And being an introvert, there's nothing wrong with being an introvert, but if you find this limiting your life, is limiting your choices, then yeah, it's something that you need to do a little bit differently. All right. It's something you need to do differently. So in the meantime, I want you guys to like the video. Please share a link or two. Doesn't have to be this one. Just a link and then subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time, which is 9 if you're on the East Coast. There are more than 1,000 videos on this channel, so feel free to type in a search string and find whatever interests you. And I'll see you here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.